YouTubers, Instagrammers. Did I leave anybody out? Those of you listening on mixstation.com, you are listening to the Intimacy Chronicles. I am the host, Queen Jackie, and to my right. So
I am very happy to be here.
that's funny. You know you owe me a song.
I owe you a song.
Yeah, the She's the Queen. This ain't the kind of day for it.
She's your queen.
Oh my goodness. Well, I appreciate the effort.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's your boy Rick here, also known as the Quiet Storm. I'll be quiet. Or stormy.
Right.
You don't know
more
what
like
get.
stormy.
Yeah, speaking of storm, what about that storm last night? Yesterday?
Yeah, it was a lot of rain. Oh my God.
And we didn't even get the gist of it. Most of it was
we were fortunate.
Yeah.
We were very fortunate.
Some people had some flooding.
Yeah, when I went to work yesterday, different parts of Ricerstown Road was flooded.
Yeah.
It was crazy, but I still feel like it could have been worse.
I mean, you're in the middle of a pandemic, then you get in a hurricane where you have to stay indoors. So I don't know. Feels like a real life Jumanji game that we go. It's crazy. You got killer wasps.
Oh yeah, there is that, and I don't know why they're saying, they're talking about the aliens. The aliens have been here.
They found another dimension.
All of this stuff. I mean, so 2020 has been something.
We just finished July. They said July everything was going to be a little bit better, but you just found out they were Julying.
See.
Okay. Tip your waiters and waitresses before you go out. I'll be here all week.
That's the thing. Now, since we're talking about that, so I know that dining in the city is shut down, right?
For the most part, yeah. In the city, it is. In the counties, they have. I see like Applebee's. I drove past Applebee's today, and it said open for indoor dining. And I think it's like a 50% capacity kind of thing.
Okay.
And that's in Catonsville. So, but I think the city, which is unfortunate because so much of the economy in Baltimore in the summertime is based on tourism,
right?
And people coming into the city. The corporate people doing the happy hours after work and stuff like that.
It's a different.
And there's people that are making a living who's not able to in the hospitality business.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, you're talking about hotels, and people not spending money.
She says she's waiting to get in the room.
Yeah, so, I mean, hopefully this too shall pass, but who knows what is this going to be the new normal?
Let me look, 'cause I can't. I must have the wrong link. Hang on.
So how was your week? You had a good week?
It was pretty good.
Yeah. I'm excited about our guest tonight.
Yeah, so am I.
We have our two candidates from the Republican Party for the City Council of Baltimore.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. You don't hear too much about Republicans in such a Democratic city that's been run by Democrats since 1967. So it's always good to hear people from the other side and a different perspective as well. So.
Oh. Why my thing say? Okay.
It's always good to hear that.
No, let me just make sure she has the right link. Come that didn't. I'm sorry, you gotta keep it moving.
So,
Right. I mean, you gotta keep going while I take care of this. I mean,
yeah, so
work with me.
Yeah, so we're waiting on our guests, but yeah, it's been a pretty cool week for me. Like I said, a lot of restaurants and stuff and places are trying to get back to normal, and a couple places that I've been to over the weekend had like 50% capacity in outdoor dining.
Okay.
So it's still a loss, but at the same time, it's contingent on good weather. So if the weather doesn't hold up, then it's pretty much a loss. So
right.
So like I said before, I feel for the people in that industry where you have to rely on hospitality and that kind of thing, because again, it's impacting them.
Right. Absolutely.
So, everybody, I'd like to welcome y'all to the Rich by Itself show.
Hey.
Rich is over here talking to himself. He don't know what to say to himself. This is very funny, y'all.
I am
this
very
is
happy
not
to
Mix
be here.
Station. Look, hold on, I got to play the disclaimer because this is not a Mix Station fault.
Anyway.
I talk to myself all the time. So
he's used to it. And you know what I'm saying?
The views and opinions of the guests and the hosts you hear on Mix Station Radio Live
He
are not
is
necessarily
used to
those of
talking
the
to
staff
himself.
and the management of Mix Station Radio Live,
Oh my
its
God.
sponsors
Oh
or
my God.
advertisers.
Anywho, that was petty, but
Hold up.
that was some fine print for you.
That is Rich. Talk show by himself, y'all. Welcome to the Rich Show.
The Rich Show, that's right. Richie Rich.
Richie Rich. So what did y'all think about the show last week?
It was very interesting. We learned some
Yeah.
things about our city that we just don't know behind the scenes.
Right.
And like I said, it's always good to hear from the other side
other
of the
side,
aisle.
yeah.
It's interesting because they are underdogs in the city, and I like their perseverance, and I like their the fact that they're passionate about what they believe,
Right.
even though let's keep it real, they're facing an uphill battle.
It is an
Because
uphill
people
battle.
so used to voting Democrat. So I mean, it's always good to hear them and allow them to open up our mind.
And to understand that just because you are a registered Democrat doesn't mean that you're under obligation to vote Democrat. I mean, I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm going to vote for the candidate that serves my needs.
All right, Jackie, is it really Mentos in here or is it something else? Because I got to ask you before I eat any of your shit.
What you saying? I might have orgasm gum or something.
I don't want to get, start
She
geeking on
said she
camera.
just clicked the link.
I think it's
Oh, that's
Mentos
her.
because I'm chewing one.
It gives you that orgasmic
Crystal Mentos.
flavor. See, there you go. Had the cops coming here raiding us. But yeah, I learned
gotta find
a
us
few
first.
things, but I think what I was saying in terms of because you're registered as a Democrat, it doesn't mean that you can't vote Republican. If you agree with a lot of what the candidate has to say.
Yep. Absolutely.
I think I registered at 18, and I registered as a Democrat because that's what my parents
Well,
were.
they make you choose. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, exactly.
I always say, it's like, okay, for Miss America, we get to choose between 50 contestants, but for president, we get to choose between two.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so
I'm like, what's up with that? Why can't we have we choose amongst as many as that's qualified and
right.
yeah, so it's always that's always been the thing. But hey, we live in a two-party system, and it's either one or the other.
It's one or the other.
Yeah.
And it's not about so much the label, but those are the choices that we have.
Yeah.
So, when I think of the city election, I'm kind of on the fence, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
In terms of the candidates, because, okay, we have Brandon Scott, and in my opinion, this is not the opinion of Mix Station, but since they're being petty, hi Zalika, I'm gonna say that I'm not really that confident in his ability to run the city.
Yeah.
Well,
you know,
in all fairness, I mean, we haven't. He hasn't come on the show, and
I'm trying.
plead his case, but we have heard from the GOP candidate, and she has some really good, substantial things to talk about.
Yeah.
And she made sense. It was simple, and so yeah. If I was on the fence, it's a situation where she definitely raised my eyebrow.
She provided a lot of information. Yeah, definitely.
And she was fearless, and she went and she stood up to the question. So
that's what I loved. I loved that there wasn't any tap dancing around the questions.
Right.
She provided as much information as she possibly could. I think when you have these candidates on and you're talking to them, you want them to be clear, but not tap dance around the issues.
Yeah.
What she said, which I thought was a great point, we really have a long way to go.
Yeah. And one of the takeaways I took from it is I think we, as a whole, we just need to educate ourselves.
Absolutely.
Even though someone might talk a good game, you still do the research and validate.
Do your own research,
and you take it for what they say. You know, if they might say something that might pique your interest, but you go and do your homework and validate and see if they're what they're talking about is the straight dope.
And not just that. Okay, so once you vote, it's your responsibility to continue to hold those candidates, at their word. You know, you got to keep your foot on their neck. I think so many people think that once they vote and their candidate is in office, that it stops.
I'm sorry, did you say foot on their neck? It's too soon for that.
A foot on the neck. Oh,
it's too soon for that.
Well, if that's, I'm just saying. I just think that we have to do a better job of holding these candidates accountable.
Absolutely.
Now, we let Pastor Wright off easy last week because she was on the Intimacy Chronicles, so we didn't ask her any relationship kind of questions or anything. But when she comes back, that's a different story. But we certainly enjoyed having her on. What did you think of the show last week, Zalika?
It was awesome. It really was. You know, I was so I was just so proud of her being able to be very direct about where she wants to take the city, what direction she wants to take the city, which is something that I have not been hearing from other candidates. You know, I've heard a lot about the problems with Baltimore, and but you really don't hear them talking about what their solutions would be. And then the things that they appear to say they're going to do, you look and you do your homework and you find out that's not possible because of the charter, or that's not possible because of the things that are already in place. We're under a decree here, not just with the courts, but with the Department of Justice. And so those things are very specific in terms of holding the city's police department accountable, but also holding the city leaders accountable. So, I was happy to hear her on that same page, that I ran on, which was being transparent and really being real about issues, but not just the issues, but the solutions.
Right.
Okay. And so that's what I was so much impressed with Pastor Wright, because she's solution driven.
It seems. I felt like when she was speaking that you weren't getting a whole lot of fluff.
None.
She's like, tell it like it is. Either you're going to like what I say or you're not. But this is it, front and center. So I love that. And you can just feel her passion for what she does.
You can feel in spirit. You can feel that she has the love for the city as well as the people, and wanting she's making a sacrifice. You know, you heard about her background. You know, some of us that actually have a broad background where us even stepping out of our comfort zone and what we've been doing and fighting for years, not just on a state level, but on a national level. When someone actually is in the city, living in that city, and fall so much in love with what they see the city could become, they're willing to make that type of sacrifice. Okay, right. So I'm loving that about it. What I did notice also, not speaking just about the GOP nominee Shannon passed the right, but just what I'm noticing, and I think you hit that on the nose, Queen Jackie, is the inability or just the refusal for Brandon Scott not to participate in a debate or even in a interview, you know, with different media platforms where, you know, people will get to know more about what his plans are. Because if we could simply be left to our own mind to look at the track record that this young man has been driving on for the past almost decade, then I see why 71% of the city, even the Democrats, just don't trust this administration.
Well, and I wonder, I mean, he's not here, so we can't speak for him.
Absolutely. But that's my question.
Right, but
why would you not want to be here to gain the people's trust? You feel what I'm saying? Not just being so to the point where, well, I mean, when someone asks you to participate on a Fox 45 debate, and you turn around and say, I refuse. Like that. Just, I refuse. Give no explanation, no reason. I think that's a mindset that is arrogant, that feels that they have it already.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that he feels like he's already mayor. It's just a formality. So why the hell should I participate in a debate?
Okay.
Yeah.
So see, that's what I think that, you know, just like there was a big upset in 2016 with O'Malley and with Governor Larry Hogan, I think people become so complicit and so caught up in the power and just so caught up in the norm, quote unquote norm, till they totally begin not to consider the possibility that maybe, just maybe, people are very serious this time about doing their homework and looking for real change.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. I think that sometimes your arrogance can lead you right to a big pitfall. You know,
You're right.
You wake up thinking you're mayor of the city.
Right.
And you're not. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you still have to work for it. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So, and I think that's not, it's a disrespect to the citizens. You know, you want to see a debate. You want to see how each candidate, if they could hold their own in a debate. You want to be able to, while they're debating, that's kind of like your homework. And at the same time, that will actually, after watching a debate, okay, I was leaning in this direction, but after looking at a debate, I think I'm going on this side. You know, you owe the citizens that much. To be that arrogant and feel like you don't have to do it, it is like saying, really, I don't really care what y'all think. I already got this sewn up. And if that's the case, then I'm like, okay, do we even need to go to the polls?
But guess what? We get the last say.
Right.
We get the last say, but
last say.
If we're going by the votes,
There you go. There you go.
And the citizens of Baltimore, they don't realize how much power they have.
Absolutely.
Because when I was growing up, I grew up in the city of Baltimore. You're talking about the 70s and 80s, and even the 90s. I lived in the city of Baltimore. When I was growing up, Ms. Zalika, we had 1 million residents. Okay.
Yes.
Right now, we got about 600,000.
So it's less now, about 589,000 residents.
Okay, so since I last calculated, we lost more residents, and so so number one, everybody vote. Everyone who votes, their vote going to weigh more in these situations if they exercise their right to vote. And number two, it's my question for you guys, since you've been involved in the Republican Party. Being that we're so pro-democratic city and surrounding areas, how hard is it to raise campaign funds to get you guys get some money in your war chest so that y'all can organize and at the same time put together let's say a mayoral candidate and city council candidates running on one ticket and one package and progressively try to challenge the status quo?
I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see something interesting over the next 2 weeks.
Okay, what I'm going to see.
And that's amazing that you brought that up, because I think that you're really going to see something interesting take place. And that's going to surprise a lot of people.
Oh, you're just going to keep me in suspense,
right?
huh?
She's going to bring that up and then
you're just going to tease us what I'm going to see. Come on. Don't be teasing. Come on, Queen Z. Okay.
Okay.
If I tell you I got
I gotta kill you.
Okay, I'll wait. Look.
As quiet as this cap, I think you're going to begin to see you're going to begin to see a team emerge.
Okay. Good.
I'm just going to give you that clue.
I'll wait. Look, Miss Zalika, you ain't
see a team emerge.
You ain't the first woman I had to wait for, so
you're beginning to see it.
Okay, Miss Zalika,
do your homework, folks.
All right, I'm gonna wait for you. I'm gonna wait for
you. You're already beginning to see it.
Okay.
But I think over the next couple of weeks, you're gonna see a very strong team emerge.
Okay. Yeah, but how hard is it? Is it hard to
Let me tell you
is it hard
something.
to raise money? I mean, especially corporate dollars. You would think.
But for me, when I was running, I purposely could have raised tens of thousands of dollars and didn't, because I did not want to owe any favors.
Okay.
I didn't want to owe any favors to the developers. I didn't want to owe any favors to the big nonprofits. So I used, I think for the primaries, I may have used about $10,000 of my dollars that I invested in me, because I felt like the Democrats needed to be challenged, and I didn't see them that had my mindset or my vision. So I made that sacrifice. So I think another thing is that you're seeing, even when you talk about the Democrats having a financial war chest, well, really, there's only 4 of those Democrats that had a financial war chest. And it's only because they have been politicians for over a decade now.
Gotcha.
So see, whenever and people don't understand how that works. So that's why Fox put a lot of the Democrats and a lot of what they call insignificant Democrats that were running to a disadvantage, when there's not a requirement to disclose to the public in the primaries how much you have raised. Okay, right. They made that a requirement at the 11th hour, Why? Because they wanted to be able to eliminate a large portion of those candidates, to have the public only focus on who they considered to have been the top 4 candidates.
Right.
And they were basing it on not so much their background, but basing it more on how much money they had raised. But let me tell you what the advantage was for the Democrats. If you look at the Theroux, the former DEA,
Right.
he already had hundreds of thousands of dollars because he ran before. So it was nothing. He had almost $1 million still in his campaign committee's war chest. Okay? You had Sheila Dixon, who came in at the 11th hour, but she still had a committee. Remember, she tried to run even after having to step down in 2010, right before, she tried to run again for 2016, okay, against Pew. And she had money already still left over. See, they never take that money out. That money is sitting there. You feel me? So they have always, it's like passing a baton.
Okay.
Like passing a baton. Whereas to the GOP here, I think they have some support, but they don't really start supporting that slate until after the primary. So they don't really start raising money. But see, look at what happened this time. What happened this time, you had a world pandemic. You feel me? So because you didn't raise money 2 years ago, leading up to this, thinking that, okay, we can raise the money going into the general elections. Run the right strategy. But at the same time, you know what I will tell the voters? At least you know they are not in special interest pocket. There you go. I'm going to put it like that. They don't owe any favors to anybody other than all of you voters.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So that makes sense why he wouldn't, the primary candidate would not agree to a debate, because it's not a way. He's already on top. It'll be a lose. If anything, it'll hurt his credit. It will hurt his polls. So he doesn't need to. He could avoid it all along. He could avoid it until all the way up to the 11th hour.
Right. Now you notice what's happening on the national level. The same thing is happening on the national presidential level, where Joe Biden don't want to debate.
I haven't heard that one.
Same thing is going on.
So,
but I think it would behoove Joe Biden. It's almost, what I look at this election season. It's almost being in a federal capital, what they call that, capital crime, where you're being prosecuted for a capital offense. And so they ask you have the right to either be testified on your own behalf so the jury can hear you, or you can just decide not to give testimony at all. I look at this almost the same way. It's like what you just said, my man.
That's an interesting analogy.
He's looking at this strategically as he doesn't have an advantage. He would be more at a disadvantage. But see, that's why the voters need to demand to be heard, to a debate.
Absolutely.
Because the debate is healthy, and this is an election season that's too important. And this young man, I'm going to say it, he has not been tested. He has only had a couple of mentors. So he's only seen a certain type of leadership. And unfortunately, all 2 or 3 of those administrations have been corrupt in some kind of capacity. So what is he going to bring to the table that's different, because you are what you've learned and how you've been mentored? And he came straight out of college, never worked a job, never been mentored. He's only learned what he's been taught behind the scenes in Baltimore city government.
So what it seems like, even if he is the city's next mayor, we're going to have the same continuous administration.
There you go. Same mindset.
Same mindset.
Same policies.
So nothing will change. Now,
There
Pastor Wright brought up the fact that I think he defunded the police department by $22 million?
Well, $22 million is what he drew legislation to get the city council to approve to defund the Baltimore City Police Department. But you already knew you couldn't defund them. And matter of fact, you guess what? They increased the budget to $500 million,
right.
$500 million.
Right.
That's number one. Number two is, okay, well, that $22 million that you call yourself reducing an overhead cost for BPD, that was listed as discretionary funds.
Right.
So that's money you could have did anything with anyway. Okay. So really, what are you doing? You can't defund it because you're under a court order and you're under the DOJ. You're under a decree with the Department of Justice and the courts. Okay. So, it's like something being stuck in Congress where you draw up a bill and you try to get it through. You try to lobby for it. You try to lobby to have that bill and let it at least be voted on up or down, yay or nay. Okay.
Right.
Now that you got to vote yay, but guess what? It can stall right in the House because guess what? The Senate can decide we're not going to fund it.
Absolutely. I
just got a text from the GOP nominee, Devonnie Patterson. He's running a little late. He's sending his apology, but he should be trying to come in pretty soon.
Okay,
we appreciate that.
Well, we're having a good time talking to you. I mean, you always school us and keep it real. But let me ask you this. I mean, and let me get your thoughts on this. One of the things, I have a family and I love my city of Baltimore. How can we? One of the things that I love about the summertime is enjoying myself downtown and around the harbor, just going to restaurants, going to different things. How can we ensure that this city is safe? I mean, because there's it's a tough thing when you come downtown and you see, let's say you see the mini bikes driving down Pratt Street making all this noise. Right. And of course, the police don't really chase them because they were there's whatever policy, just let them do their thing.
Right.
But the message, the message is anarchy. It's just like everything is going crazy, and no one can control it. How do we change that perception?
I'm gonna tell you a little secret. Right now, because of COVID-19, and the city really is still in phase 1. They're having the curbside restaurants and cafes right now in most parts. And so I've been having a good time in Baltimore since it's been on lockdown. I haven't seen a lot of the bikers this season because I think things are kind of still on the close down. So if you want to bring your family members and enjoy, I would advise you to take a look at how the weather is going to be. Give it another week or so, because we had the tropical storm yesterday. So a few places near the harbor did. We didn't experience it really bad, not as bad as Cecil County and a few other counties in Baltimore County.
True.
I'm going to be taking a look. I would just take a look at when you go to the city of Baltimore online and take a look at what's open and what is available to see. But this has been a really good time. We've had the last 2 weekends, we've had a really good time. There hasn't been a lot of bikers. But as you know, when they start going into phase 2 and phase 3 and trying to reopen the city of Baltimore up, I know what you're saying. You have an array of bikers down there because they really don't have their own area where they can enjoy themselves by riding and doing the acrobats. They're very acrobats. That's what I call them. they're very talented. I think they were. You have 360, which is a young lady that runs this program where she's taking bikers and kind of taking them off the streets and bringing them into programs even in the universities where they're looking at when you have the ability to do all that acrobatic talent with those bikes, you've got an engineer's mind.
Yeah,
you have engineers and a scientific mind.
All right,
so that's one key is we need to take those talents that we're seeing and bring more people to mentor those young people to show them where they can take that same talent that that same enjoyment, that same thrill, and use it and take it to another level where they can become successful and where they can even compete. I think the Royals Arena brought them in the Pews administration because we were talking about the bikers and let them compete. They actually put the dirt in the arena and had a stage for them and everything. And the people really enjoyed that, from the little children to the adults. They enjoyed watching that. So I think even if I'm talking about promoting in the city, I would promote looking at doing something to use that talent and gift and enjoyment that they have and redirect it where it's more structured.
Yeah.
So you don't have all the chaos downtowns in the street of the city.
Yeah, but before we get to that point, and I think that's a great idea, having an outlet for them to work towards and to display their talent, because you are absolutely right. Some of the things that they're doing on those bikes, although it looks dangerous, and God forbid if they fall down. I mean, I'm looking at it from this perspective. How much of them have insurance? If they get injured,
no helmets, no insurance.
Are these? They're riding these bikes. They're riding these bikes on the. They're riding these bikes on the street. Are they registered? It's like before we get to a place where they can do that. We probably need to figure out how the ways and means to get to that level, because I don't see no license plates on none of these bikes. And they're driving around.
Look, the bottom line is we have to see. That's what Pastor Wright was talking about. When you talk about the laws that are already on the books, we need to stop picking and choosing what laws we're going to implement and we're going to stop somebody on. You feel me? We have to start looking at real life situations, and in order for police officers to be respected again in the community, we have to, number one, start at home. Parents need to make sure, because some of these kids are very, very young, where they're still at home. Some of these kids are like 14, 15, 16 years old. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then some of them are influenced by gang leaders. Some of them are in the streets. You feel what I'm saying? So we need to be looking at tackling all three of those type of situations. But our law enforcement, in the summertime, when they know that you want tourists to enter the city, where you know that you want people that live in the county. Look, Baltimore City is a part of Maryland, period. And just like we like to enjoy Ocean City, we also like to come in and enjoy the city of Baltimore. Yeah. So we need to make sure that we have our law enforcement on purpose, looking out and citing those individuals. You have to do that. At some point, you've got to uphold your own laws. We had that same situation on the national level, where no one wanted to uphold our immigration laws. You feel me? And this president's not going for it. Okay, he's saying, look, I remember going to Mexico, and I had Kenny. I negotiated Kenny to fight Miguel Gonzalez back then, when Miguel Gonzalez held the WBA world title. And Kenny had just came off from winning the $250,000 Strohs tournament in LA, in Inglewood. And we went into Juarez, Mexico, for a Don King Showtime fight, challenging the WBA champion. And so, you know, we had the press conference and everything, and it had not been for the producer and the host of The Price is Right, and he's very well known in Mexico. They actually have a Price is Right, the producer noticed, well, wait a minute, we see that they have not received their work visa. You need a work visa. They would have arrested us and we could have stayed in prison for 2 years if we had stepped foot in that ring.
Right.
Juarez ain't
not been stamped.
Juarez ain't no joke. That's over there. That's over there by El Paso. They be kidnapping people.
Right.
Oh yeah, you can walk from El Paso.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So, and we were treated like kings and queens. I mean, the food was great. Yeah, everything was great, but they don't play when it comes to their immigration laws. And so I'm glad that we're on top of that. But it's the same thing when you're talking about policing your city. You can't continue to pick and choose what laws you're going to uphold and hold people to standards on.
Well, what about updating and law reform, updating these laws to reflect the current times? Because there's some old laws in the books that are redundant and don't make sense.
During my campaign, we've got laws that are on the books that's over 100 years old.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we need the right people, the right mindset to run this city, and the right team that's going to make up the city council members, the president of the city council. We need to make sure that the mayor and all of them come together and start writing and updating some of those laws that are outdated on our books, some of the procedures in the various agencies that are out of date. We need to bring Baltimore into the 21st century. Even you're absolutely correct on that, Quiet Storm.
Do you think it's a situation where, with so many issues going on at the same time, you think we're too busy to improve? You know what I mean?
I don't think so. I think you just have to have the right team that make up government, and you have to that are willing to work with people in each community to really get it done. I mean, think about it. You have city council members that get paid almost like a full-time salary that only are required to work part-time as the city councilman. They got other jobs.
How can I get that
I feel that what I wanted to do as mayor is change that dynamic. And if we're going to pay you $72,000 a year, I want 40 hours of your time. Because guess what? You have enough issues in your district, and you have enough other community leaders that you need to be partnering with and making sure that the issues that are problem issues in those districts, they can be resolved with solutions by all of you coming together and on a day-to-day working with each person, each school, each neighborhood association. We need to have community policing where we have the neighborhood watch. Neighborhood watches actually work. So there's work to be done, but it's time for us to come into the 21st century. That may have worked years ago when Baltimore was this charming city and everyone just loved to party and go to the nice clubs like Odell's and Gatsby's and all the nice little spots.
So I have a question for you, Zalika. Do you think a Republican administration would change a lot of what's going on now?
Oh, I absolutely.
And how so?
I absolutely believe that this particular nominee and these particular individuals that are teaming up on the GOP side absolutely can make changes. And what makes me say that is these particular individuals actually can work with anybody. They're already working. Giovanni right now is in his community working with someone right now with an organization, and that's why he's a little bit behind coming in on the program. Okay, but I think that if you have that right mindset and you understand how to leverage people and you understand that you must work together in a unified fashion and not just keep researching the issues and the problems, but actually bring the visionaries and bring the problem solvers, the troubleshooters to the table to actually write up the plan and implement the right policies and right laws where you can actually achieve the plan.
Now, I'm not familiar with Christopher Anderson. Is he new to politics?
Yes, he is new to politics. He served in our military. So but he grew up in Baltimore City in that district.
I saw
District
that.
7.
Yeah.
He actually went to school here in the city. His mom owned a little restaurant in the community. I think it was turned down from his grandmother to his mother. So he understands that the 7th district. He also has quite a few things. I think I sent you a profile of him. Mm-hmm. And they're actually all coming together because they are on that same page when it comes to working together in City Hall to bring forth the right policies that will better their communities. You know, they are strong, but I know Christopher and Giovanni, their mindset, they're very strong when it comes to family. They believe in building strong families.
Okay. What makes you
bringing back the family values?
As you speak about that, what makes the your team that we're gonna see in 2 weeks? Because I'm gonna watch out. Okay.
Okay.
What makes your team fundamentally different from the Democrats?
I would tell you that the one main thing that I see right off the top of my head that makes this team different from what you've been accustomed to seeing is this team, the administration now, they have a mindset where it's all about research, it's all about nonprofit, it's all about satisfying status quo, people that are behind the scenes that run these various foundations and the various nonprofits. Even when it comes to education, they will support people like the historical Black colleges, the University of Maryland, anything dealing with research and science. They're on top of. They're there. Okay, and those are their backers, their supporters. I don't think that they put in the energy and the time that's necessary to be able to achieve moving the city forward in a new direction. Okay, how do you want your city to look? You go downtown and you look at your city, you're still seeing things there from the 60s and the 70s. Like if you walk right up around the corner from City Hall, you're looking at the go-go clubs, you're looking at the little sex clubs or the little stripper joints or whatever, the exotic dancers. Is that really, in these days in the 21st century, that's really not the entertainment these days. If you go into the major cities that really have revived and revitalized their cities, people are more into family men. They want a city where they could go downtown. If they want to have a cigar, they could go into a cigar lounge. Or they could go, in D.C., the big thing is, in certain areas, the hookah bars.
Right.
Okay? Then you have, where if you're downtown, oh my God, you're going to get a taste of almost every culture there is. So you know, you're going to get that type of entertainment. That's why you have people like Beyonce and different people going to Verizon Center or the New Center now that's downtown in D.C. You have a lot of your large metropolis cities now actually rebuilding their cities to reflect the country's mode and what people really want to see come out of their city. And I'm got to tell you that we've lost so many people. People want to say that we lost a lot of the homeowners here in Baltimore City due to just mere property taxes. But I got to tell you, Quiet Storm, I'm kind of like you. It's not even just about the property taxes. I'm a family-oriented person. So when I get the moment to spend quality time with my children or my grandchildren, I want to be able to show off the city. I want to be able to go downtown.
You're absolutely right.
And do a day out with the family.
Let me tell you something.
Know that it's catering for me and my family principles. You know, they have some great things down. The aquarium is nice. But who wants to go to the aquarium or who wants to go on the pirate ship when a few blocks up the street you got people, like you say, with the bikes, or people standing on Saratoga and they have drug trafficking going on right there in front of sometimes the police officer's face. Okay? You have to clean that downtown area up and rebuild that downtown so you can draw the right people.
Let me tell you something. I got year-long, we bought passes to the zoo, family passes to the zoo, Baltimore City Zoo, and we got the aquarium. So whenever, one of the things that growing up when in Baltimore, whenever my parents had out-of-town guests, we used to all go down to the harbor.
Yeah.
And they loved it. We would buy crabs all the way down there on Monroe Street and drive all the way back to Northeast Baltimore. Them crabs still hot.
Right, that's true. I remember those days.
And here's the deal. There's a couple things I wanted to bring up, and because I remember last year vaguely about some of the projects that were happening in Baltimore. I know there was they were building up the area between the Horseshoe Casino and the stadiums. In that corridor in between there, they started raising the ground and tearing down. And I haven't been down there, so I don't even know how it's been developed or where the development is. But what I understood, they was going to make that into like an entertainment type of corridor from
they never complete anything here.
Okay, so
that's the problem.
Okay,
they never complete anything here. You know, when I first came in, they wanted me to the chair for the DLLR, and he's also the chair for the boxing commission here in the state of Maryland. He said, I know who you are. You know, a lot of people in the media. I want you to know, don't just get your manager's license. I want you to promote televised boxing. Well, you know, that area down there should have been prime time. Yep,
because they were going to make an amphitheater. Yeah, absolutely. Because
where it would become family friendly.
Yep.
It would become an entertainment hub. Some people from New York, entertainers, sneak in sometimes to go to Horseshoe, and you wouldn't even know they're here.
Yeah. So that project
in for a moment and they're out.
So what's the status of that project?
Some of them are coming back.
What's the status of that project? It's on hold, or they still planning on it? Or
well, guess what? That's what I'm saying. They start things, and instead of them development creates hundreds of job opportunities.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
And instead of them putting the RFP out, calling for a prime contractor, but as well as making it a requirement, because this is what I was going to do, making it a requirement that prime contractor that's selected will have to actually have at least 25% of all the work to be done by minority-owned contractors as subcontractors.
Yeah.
Because when you do it like that, 75%, if you have it where 75% of all the work is required to be the manpower must be drawn from the city, where they must be city residents.
Yeah.
That creates the thousands of job opportunities. Now, then guess what happens there? When you actually approach a project from that viewpoint, now you can actually take a $635 billion project and actually take it from start to completion. But when you just say, okay, we're going to get this buddy this developer who contributed to my campaign, we're going to let him take this part of the project. Okay, we got Horseshoe done. Now we we're supposed to be building some complexes across the street. We supposed to also be building some fine dining around this sector. Oh, well, we want to build a few more pubs and whatnot up the street because, we got both of the stadiums there. When you do that and you don't put out fair competition, this is what happens. Why projects don't get completed.
Yeah, I was excited about that when I heard about it. I was real. Yeah. And you know what? I think Baltimore missed another big opportunity, and this isn't any Baltimore's fault. It's really because of COVID. But Baltimore was supposed to host the CIAA tournament.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're talking about that is huge in the history HBCU. Yeah, and you're talking about games down at the arena, hotels, parties. It was going to be. Spring was going to be. A lot
of people would have benefited from that.
Sometimes God will put things on hold for a purpose.
Yeah, I hope we didn't miss.
He would allow some things to happen for a purpose.
I hope we didn't miss the boat.
What? You could see. I'm like this. You can look at things as being a drawback, but you can also look at things as being an opportunity.
Okay.
To get your city right. So when that arrives, they will want to come back over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's not just enough to just have a 2-block or 3-block or 4-block radiance when you have something that major.
Yeah.
Because it's going to bring tourists in from all over the East Coast and even from the West Coast. And guess what happens? People are going to want to tour different parts of the city, period. Because, I've heard about Baltimore. I'm here in Baltimore City. I used to do that when I used to come to Baltimore for the annual Light Laser Show. We would come in here. I don't care where I was. I would show up for that laser show. But I wouldn't just limit myself to be on that boardwalk. I wanted to go to this place, that place. I wanted to check out that area of Baltimore.
Yeah.
So leaders here have got to start looking at Baltimore City as a city and as a whole. Now I keep going right back to that because when investors and when people look at and they give you the opportunity and you get a major opportunity such as that, okay, guess what? You should want to be the best you can be.
Yeah.
But what I would like to see, even if, let's say, hypothetically speaking, that, Brandon is elected as mayor, I also want to know if those leaders that were running for the Republican Party, are they still willing to come together to work as a team? Okay, the election is over, so can we? Yeah, that's what I would like to see.
Because I think everybody needs to hold people accountable. Because
absolutely,
because I think it's a big opportunity we're missing.
Even maintain stand here in Baltimore. Baltimore must change, and for me and Mr. Basemore, it's not even about who sits in that city hall building, because we're going to invest if we stay here.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? We're going to make sure that we invest by rebuilding a lot of this property because we just going to invest the money.
Yeah.
And then to make sure that we're putting programs, because guess what? I don't need to be nonprofit because then they'll control me, and I'm not one to be controlled. So we're going to open businesses. We're going to help entrepreneurs and small businesses open businesses that will help their community grow. Period. It don't matter who's in City Hall. Do you know one thing about my mindset is I don't care who's in office because I'm still going to be able to achieve whatever I go after to achieve. And if it means I'm going to go after, because I feel like we could, in a course of 5 years, we could take 5,000 people that are renters here and actually take and make affordable housing where we can sell and we can teach them and bring them under those special hub programs, and I can educate them. Then if I have to take one person at a time and one house at a time, I'm going to invest the money. And then I got investors that want to do the same thing. But one main thing, Jackie, and Quiet Storm is this police force. The crime must go down. The killings must go down. The killings, okay, that's Giovanni. The killings, I think he wants to be let in. Hold up. He just texted me.
I think that he's in. One of my concerns is anybody in the room, Nick?
That's Giovanni trying to get in.
We don't see him in the room.
Okay, let me give him the link you just gave me and tell him to try again. Hold on.
One of the things, I'm going to wait, but...
Yeah, let's wait on that one. Hold up. I'm getting ready to send him this again.
So, anyway, Quiet Storm. I think when you start talking about tourism, I remember it was such a big deal to go to, like, the harbor. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it was just something that you just would get excited about. Your family members coming to town. And you get so excited about taking them to the harbor, or they come in, I want to go to the harbor because they've heard so much about it. Yeah. But in building up the harbor, I also think a lot of communities suffered as a result. Because that was the main focus at that time. Yes.
Yeah, but you gotta build on something.
No, I agree with that, but
because there was the inner harbor.
Cost of
I remember when Billy Murphy was running against Mayor Schaefer, and his main campaign was, there's the inner harbor, then there's the outer harbor.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, and that stuck with me.
It's about your city.
Yeah.
And guess what? We desperately West Baltimore desperately needs people need job opportunities. So
absolutely,
look, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, but you're looking
at your city as a whole.
Yeah,
you got to start somewhere. I mean, the main thing.
You can look. You know what? I'm tired of hearing people talk about starting somewhere. This city gets more money. This city has more rich people in this daggone city and in the surrounding county, where you got to have a mindset of, look, we're going to simultaneously build our city.
Well, that's a start.
Build our city. We can guess what? We was doing like 50 to 100 daggone projects in a small city like Washington, D.C. Simultaneously.
Oh, yeah. But that's where it starts. I'm saying you got to start somewhere. We got to start with investing back into the city, putting these money that's allocated for schools and actually spending it on schools. Because I remember they said the casinos were going to, a lot of the money was supposed to go to schools.
And it has not.
Nobody held the casinos accountable.
Yeah, I know. So now you have private industry that's making money off of gambling, and and we still can't have air conditioning in school. You know, we got four casinos in Maryland, and they making a ton of money. And like I said, I'm not seeing the investment. I'm not seeing the return that was promised.
That was the selling tool for bringing in the casino.
Yep, Pimlico Race Course as well. You know, it's a lot of stuff that.
Okay, Giovanni is in.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that
Patterson is in the room.
When we had schools without heat.
Hello, Mr. Patterson.
Hi, Mr. Patterson. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Sorry, I'm doing my best Zulika Bazemore impression right now.
So you're a comedian, huh?
Not really. I'm not a comedian.
On the move.
So we know you're on the move, so we appreciate you joining us tonight. And we just wanted to get your feedback.
I really hate being late, and I am so sorry.
That's okay. You're here now, so we won't beat up on you too bad tonight.
Hey man, just make it up. just make it up to you. Make it up to us when you get elected, man.
Oh, I will, man.
So one of the things.
I'll be a man of my word.
Okay, that's good to know. One of the things I wanted to ask you: did you always know you were going into politics, and what led you to want to be the city council president, actually?
So did I know I was going into politics? I would say no.
Okay.
But I would say things that I did early in life maybe prepared me a little bit for it. My mom put me in a debate class or a speech class when I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I was scared out of my mind to do this. But I had to give a speech in front of a crowd and to be able to present and debate my topics. So I think my mom maybe prepared me for it early in life. Now, why did I choose now to run? Mm-hmm. Because I think right now I think Baltimore City is at a crucial point where we've seen the decay of some of the Democrat policies that have been kind of plaguing our city for so long.
Right.
And people are actually really open for change right now.
Absolutely.
So now is the perfect time to run. But I'm also running, really for my kids, for my family. I want Baltimore to be a place where I can, raise my kids and provide a great education, safety,
Start your
and
video,
opportunities
Giovanni.
that seems to be missing right now.
Okay, that's better. Okay, so tell us why. Well, Quiet Storm is going to ask his own questions, but I'm just curious. So right now we have pretty much a Democratic administration. How would things be different under your leadership?
Well, the first thing is we have to return the city back to the people. Mm-hmm. I believe the solutions of the community, of the respective communities, already lie within the community. Mm-hmm. So that's my first objective is to empower the people to go with works for them, and that's part of being a conservative. And that individuality that we don't need to depend on a centralized thought leader or thinker to make decisions what's best for me and my family.
Okay.
Now, another reason that I would be different is because being a Republican in Baltimore City will receive automatic scrutiny, right? So there will be a level of accountability that's ingrained when I become city council president. And the Democrat politicians have been comfortable. The best way to put it is that they're comfortable. And they're comfortable because it's the same cycle, the same people, same face, different day, politicians that have been running the city. So there's been a lack of accountability, a lack of transparency, and a lack of honesty, honestly, within our city government.
So one of the things you mentioned about in regards to taxes is that, in your opinion, you feel like there's two Baltimores in a sense.
Right.
And you feel like one is like the tax privileged individuals, and then those that are punished by taxes. I kind of would agree with you on that, because I always feel like they come after the little people first, where big business get all these tax breaks. How would you be able to move the city forward and change that?
Well, we have to lower the property taxes to increase ownership. We have a lack of economic a lack of economic structure or power for the residents, because essentially the local residents that really care about the city have been drained.
Absolutely.
So when we have a lower property tax, that will also increase home ownership, which will naturally increase the safety in our communities. Will also increase entrepreneurial opportunities, because businesses will want to stay in the city, and that will, it'll create generations and cycles of ownership and wealth and just community empowerment, because the city is not draining the people for their wealth in the form of taxes.
So is that the only way to build your tax? I mean, because let's face it, if you have a solid tax base of people that are working, that brings in revenue for your city. I was speaking earlier. I grew up in Baltimore. When I was a kid, we had like 1 million residents. Now it's under 600,000. So, yes. So there's part of the issue because we don't have our tax base that's going to pay taxes and generate revenue for the city. Has been dwindled. But is that the only way we can increase home ownership or affordable housing? How do we bring people talent, back into the city where, we want a father of four can raise his family and feel safe and have good schools and to build that foundation? How we get people back in?
The tax structure goes into that it plays a major role, especially when you're talking about building a family, because as a family, as essentially running your small business, which is the family unit, right. You're going to look at what's economically best for you and your family. Now, if the education system is not strong, if the roads don't get paved, if your kids can't go outside and play and feel safe, then you're going to take your hard-earned money elsewhere. Right. That's why when people do have families, they tend to, want to leave Baltimore or just go right over the line to the county where you can get twice the house for half the price and still pay lower taxes and still have a less of a water bill. So, right. So if we want to strengthen families and increase home ownership and increase opportunities, we do need to look at the economics of the situation and decrease the taxes, but also offload a lot of the city-owned properties that aren't generating taxes and are just sitting there either abandoned, boarded up, or dilapidated, and really being an eyesore to the good folks of the city.
Mm-hmm. So we live in a city where crime is extremely high. How do we turn that around? How do we change that?
In my view, I do believe it's still about economics, because if we create a culture where everyone's working, Baltimore has so much talent.
Absolutely.
that it's such an entrepreneurial spirit in Baltimore that's not being cultivated and allowed to happen, right? So if we create the culture where anybody who needs an opportunity in Baltimore has an opportunity, because our businesses are thriving, because our homeowners, our residents are thriving, because our infrastructure is set up. Mm-hmm. So the best ideas come from the community. When we allow that to happen, there won't be anybody without a job. There won't be time for anybody to kill anybody else, because you can go out and hustle and grind and make it in this city, and you can do it in a positive and effective manner.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tall task, because you're talking about you're taking old habits and and as simple as your plans may be, they're radical in a sense where compared to what we're working with now. I
think you just have to ask people simple questions, like who knows your life better than you? Mm-hmm. I mean, you do.
Right.
Who do you want making decisions for you? Some central government that that doesn't really care about you, or for yourself? Who can make the best decision for the interests of and well-being of your livelihood and your life?
Of course, me. But
if the answer is you, then our goal as the city, as city council, is to ensure that you have the platform to build on your own, to create what you need to create, and the system of laws will make sure that if there is an injustice, it's dealt with. But to suggest that the government is the solution is really shooting yourself as an individual.
That's true.
Using the God-given talent that you have, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah. It's only going to change if we all come together, if we work together, and there has to be accountability. We can't just let the ball drop, put you in office, and then we stop holding you accountable, because nothing's going to change. It takes all of us working together to create a better environment.
Right.
You made a great point about who better to tell about your life than you. Well, we have to have that open dialogue. I don't feel like we have that right now. So under your administration, is there going to be more transparency?
Well, like I alluded to, at the beginning, because I'm running as a Republican, it's going to be, I'm scrutinized, tooth and nail. Mm-hmm. And I don't mind that, because as a public servant, which that's what I'm fighting to be, is just a person who serves the public. That's what I want you to do. I want you to hold me accountable. I want the transparency and openness to be there. Mm-hmm. I want you to know where every dollar of government money is spent, because the government doesn't make money. The way government gets its revenue is from the taxpayer.
Absolutely.
So the taxpayer should be very well versed in where those dollars go.
I agree.
So what's the main?
I welcome the transparency. I welcome the scrutiny.
Excellent, good stuff. Hey, your main candidate? What's the fundamental difference between you and your
opponent?
And your opponent.
So my opponent, Nick Mosby, is a recycled politician.
Right.
I mean, if we look at things to change, we can't just keep recycling. Recycling is very great for the environment. It's good to
hold on, wait a minute.
And reuse it. But it's not good for city politics.
Uh-huh.
And here's the thing: I don't have another vision beyond what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
Nick Mosby has a vision to become mayor. As a matter of fact, if we look at the trend of how many city council presidents have become mayor, he's using this office as city council president to try to become mayor. Because he ran for mayor in 2016 and dropped out or lost or whatever.
Right.
So his goal is to become mayor. My goal is to serve the people of Baltimore as city council president.
Okay.
So I'm not a recycled politician. I'm willing to be honest and transparent. I don't have a wife that's a state's attorney that it just ignores the law.
Ooh.
My wife is a hardworking teacher and a mother to my children. So that's what makes me different.
Wow. Okay. Shots fired, man. I hear you.
Yeah, so going into office, because Zalika made a great point, as a Republican, you're not going into office owing out a whole lot of favors to special interest groups or big businesses because they contributed to your campaign. Do you think that that's part of the issue too? Because what we have now, they're indebted to so many special interest groups that a lot of programs that should be in the city or a lot of things that should be done to move the city forward isn't, because I feel like now it's not so much about the people, but it's about ego and going to the next level. Would you?
Correct.
Yeah. So going into office, shaking things up, do you think that you will probably get a lot of resistance?
Well, of course. It's mainly because there's an R behind my name and no other reason. Because I believe a lot of people really care about the city of Baltimore.
Yeah.
We just have different views on how to solve the issue. One side generally says we can fix it, and the other side says you can fix it. Right. So my position, I stand in the camp that how do we empower the citizens of Baltimore, which is who I'm indebted to fix the issues. Where the other side says, how can we fix the issues of Baltimore based on the funding that I received in my candidacy or in my campaign? But when we sit down at the table, I do believe there will be resistance, but if we're talking about transparent and openness, I expect all of that to be shown and highlighted.
Okay. When I think about the city I grew up in, I grew up in East Baltimore, so there were a lot of summer jobs for us. I think we didn't really have time to be bored because either you were working or you were playing some type of sports. My parents paid for us to take music lessons. So there was always something to do. Going back to your statement about people will have less time to focus on committing crimes if they're working. So I would like to see more programs for the youth because they have all this energy and nothing to like sink that energy into. That's what I would like to see. I think that if we give them something to work towards, the city would be a much better place. I want to be able to go down to the harbor and not be fearful that I'm going to be attacked, which is the point that you made earlier. I want to see a safer Baltimore, but it has to be everybody working together. Like, no matter if you're Democrat or Republican, we have to check that ego and come together. That's the Baltimore that I would like to see.
I agree, but I do think a lot of that does go on now because if we look at your neighborhood and we look at my community or my street, there's a lot of that happens now. It's just not one, promoted, and two, it's not I guess it's not as polarizing as having opposite sides. There's a lot of families, a lot of hardworking families, well-to-do families within Baltimore that want to see Baltimore, be great. But then we just put faith in these politicians a lot of times to do what they said they were going to do just to be let down and then hit with talking points 4 years later just to get back in office.
And that's because we don't hold them accountable.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think that we have to educate ourselves and not be so reliant on the leaders because it works both ways. We need your help and you need our help. We need to, be more proactive about the changes that we want to see. Otherwise, it's all going to stay the same. And I'm saying we as voters, because I think that we let the ball drop too many times because we get caught up in what this person promised. But a lot of times it's just something to say so I can get your vote.
Right. My promise is to get out the way of the good people of Baltimore.
Yeah.
There's so much ingenuity. There's so much talent. There's so much drive within the residents of the city that we just have to get out the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to stop robbing from them. We have to stop lying to them. Like that's where really where I come from.
Okay.
So forgive me for my ignorance. So as a city council president, is there one particular district that you represent, or is it you represent all the districts?
So as city council president, you represent the best interest of the city.
Okay, so you're almost like you have the same kind of scope and focus as the mayor, because I always say, because if you're a council, if you are a council member, something happens in the city. Let's say a crime happens in the city. You're looking to see if it happens in your district. As opposed if you're the mayor, I guess a council president. You look at it as a holistic group, holistically, and where you say, "Oh, okay, this happened in my city."
Right.
So okay, because I was a little. Thanks for clearing that up because I was a little confused about that. So your scope is almost your scope is broader than just the
just
different districts.
Yeah.
You kind of
it's a city at large position.
So you making sure all of the council members play nice in the sandbox, right? Is that
absolutely?
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
So once you're in office, because we're speaking it into existence,
Amen.
what's your if you can, what would be your first priority?
The first thing that we need to do is increase the level of accountability. So we need to have a full audit on where every dollar is spent within the city and to what. Because the city, it doesn't, if you look at our budget, it doesn't spend it on one big expenditure to rob the city. There's a bunch of nickel and diming type things that goes on that creates this system where money can be constantly stolen. So we have to really evaluate and do an audit on where the money goes. But the second thing I would do kind of simultaneously though is find a way to lower the taxes, to really spark immediate home ownership, immediate revitalization of a lot of our communities, and really start to building the beautiful Baltimore that we know exists.
Right.
Is there a model or a city that has gone through what Baltimore has that you could use as a model for success that you guys can think of?
So not necessarily a city, but if you look at the Swedish model, I know it's a country, but if you look at the Swedish model of government, I believe it will work very well for an American city.
Interesting.
They've actually lowered their taxes. The unions work well with the local government. They also actually provide some level of basic health care for the citizens. But I do believe it's a model that actually could work for Baltimore City.
Okay.
So how much restructuring would that take? What is because it sounds like what you just said sounds like a basic model that everybody follows. I mean, you're talking about apart from the universal health care.
Well, it's a free market. It's still a free market model.
Okay.
It's not a socialistic model. So the taxes are lowered, and what happens also is all the schools are actually private. So every student gets a voucher to choose the school that they wish to go to. And what's been discovered is that these private schools, because they're in competition with one another, produce some of the brightest and smartest pupils that the world sees. And I believe if we really start challenging the children of Baltimore, we'll start seeing some of the brightest, the brightest thinkers come out of our city. Not because they're not here, it's because they're not being challenged. We keep lowering the bar, saying, saying because Johnny, goes through this particular trauma at home, he can't learn. Now, there are some things that do need to be dealt with. However, kids do respond to challenges. I look at my son. He's 2 years old. This little boy jumps off the bed, jumps off everything, and it's because he's been challenged to do so. My son has been counting to 20 and can count to 40 or 50 now. He's been counting to 20 since he's 20 months old. And he's born and raised in Baltimore. So it's not that kids don't have the wherewithal or the ability. We just keep lowering the bar. But I believe, just to go back to the point, I believe the Swedish model will actually work when we implement it, because it's a free market system and because it's using the skills and talents of the citizens to solve challenges that the city faces. We can cultivate that and build it right here in Baltimore City.
So, in the Swedish model, are the schools government funded, or where do they get their revenue from?
So, no, the schools aren't government; they're all private. However, the students get vouchers because you pay taxes. You can essentially get a voucher to pick the school that you wish to go to. And
the money comes from taxpaying money, taxpayer money. Okay.
Yeah, comes from taxpayer money. So some of our tax funds go to education, whether you have kids in school or not. So what we're doing is saying, parents, hey, you want your kids to go to the best school? Here's what the government would spend if your kid was in public school. Let's give you this money and give you the option or the choice of where you want to send your kid. And doing that, and creating that private school model, it actually boosted, the quality of the educations that kids will receive.
Okay.
I like that idea because right now it's zone based in terms of what school. You don't really get to select the school. You're going to a school in your zone. So
there's some level of quote unquote school choice here, but you have to apply to it. And for example, any child or student in the city could go to city or could go to poly, but there's an application process for it, and there's
a cap on how many.
It could sound like school choice, but it's really not school choice because you're still kind of stuck with a subpar school. Especially when we look at the statistics that were recently released about how 13 out of the 24 high schools in Maryland, 13 of the worst ones came out of Baltimore City.
Yeah, true.
Wow.
And part of that, I think, let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Part of that is funding too. There's just not the resources. You don't have the talent of teachers. Because
I hate to interrupt you there, but let's be honest about the funding. It's not that the schools are underfunded. It's because of the lack of accountability where the money goes.
Yeah.
Right? The money is getting stuck on North Avenue. It's not going to the actual students. Right now, if we have about a $16,000 to $17,000 dollar per student, but that money doesn't get to the child. That money doesn't get to the classroom. That money gets stuck in administrative costs. We have a school CEO that makes $375,000 a year. The president of the United States makes $400,000 a year. So we're talking about wasteful spending. Mm-hmm. That it's in lack of accountability where the money goes. Right now, teachers have to purchase supplies through a system called K-12 Buy. K-12 Buy inflates the cost of the materials that teachers use to purchase. So if I'm a teacher and I need just a light bulb for my projector, it's cheaper to get a new projector than get the light bulb.
Right.
That's a shame.
And it is a shame because I know a few teachers that spend their own money to buy supplies that's needed for the classroom. I don't think that they should have to do that. If the funding is being, attributed to where it needs to go, I don't think that should actually be a reality. I think that I like to go back to what you said a few minutes ago about doing an audit, because I believe that there are a lot of agencies that are probably not receiving the appropriate funding because for whatever reason, because of misappropriation of funds. And I think that our kids suffer as a result of that. I think that communities suffer. So I would like to see more accountability. And I think having an audit to figure out where the funding is going is a great start. I'm sure with that happening, I know there's going to be a lot of resistance because nobody wants to be put on Front Street.
Correct.
So I guess my question is, doing the audit, I guess that's a relationship that you and the mayor would have to be able to do that, because I think that would be kind of sticky. How would you go about doing that? Is that something that has to be voted on, or is that something that the city council president and the mayor just decide to do, or how would that work?
Well, yeah, there will be a process to make it happen. But again, when we go back to transparency, this is what I want the people to see, right? If we're, trying to pass a resolution to fully audit our city government, and we see that it keeps getting blocked, we can easily identify who doesn't want to be exposed?
Yeah.
And then we because the people are at the top of the city, not the city government. Mm-hmm. The people can then hold the quote unquote leadership accountable.
Can I ask you a question?
And if the government is not doing what the people want, then the people have a right to remove them from office.
I saw your chart. You have a flow chart. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like the first page of the city budget.
Yeah.
And that's what's represented. So it has the people at the top.
At the top,
and then it goes into the city government and all the agencies.
Can I ask you a question? And I don't know if you're at liberty to speak because it's an opinion. It's not really fact-based. But under the current structure right now, who's really running the city? I mean, it's not. Is it the politicians? Is it a special interest group or the people? I don't think it's the people. I don't think it's the who's running.
Yeah, it's definitely not the people. I believe there are some strings being pulled that even some people in power may not know who they are. Okay. But I do believe there are some influences, maybe from big business, from some philanthropists outside of the city. I do believe there's some strings attached,
right? So
to a lot of our politicians, namely my opponent and his wife.
Yeah. Now, even with regime change, okay, if that's a structure that's been embedded or we've been doing for decades, how can you completely remove yourself from that?
How do you remove yourself from? I mean, I guess. Because I'll be part of city government. I mean, it's some level that you can't. However, I don't have any big donors, or I don't have any strings attached to me. My first duty and service is to the people of Baltimore.
Yeah. But I mean, as soon as you get office, they're gonna be knocking on your door with their hands
hard.
out. You know how that works.
And that's fine, let them. But my first duty is to the citizens of Baltimore, and there's nothing that I will ever do to compromise that. Well, I'm gonna tell you a little story about myself. And my wife, laughed at me for this. So there was a point in time where I didn't have a job. I was broke. I was, I remember taking a bath with the last little bit of running water I had left, and I took a bird bath out of a bucket. So my wife remembers those times. So I think it was probably about 2 months ago or something like that. She had called me to see what I was doing. I said, nothing. I'm outside. I'm outside hustling. I'm selling drugs right now. And she said, no, you ain't. No, you ain't. I said, yeah, I am. She said, no, you ain't. I was like, how you know? She said, because I remember when you was broke, you would always go find something to do. Go cut grass, go do something to make money. When the times for you were hard to make it, you didn't compromise on who you were. Mm-hmm. And you always went to do work, no matter how hard things were for you. And that's the same level of integrity I will bring to City Hall. Is because I just can't compromise on my values. Mm-hmm. That's just who I am.
You know what? I mean, that was really, I like what you said there, and that's really commendable. And thank you for allowing us to see what makes you you. I think we were talking earlier, one of the things that is desperately needed with the citizens of Baltimore is education. Yeah. And unless we get in front of the masses and we get in front where everybody can see your story, it's going to be a tall order, because these are the type of stories that people need to hear from our candidates to give them insight on what type of person they're going to be, whether they're going to be that type of candidate that works beyond the task or works up to the task or works in it for themselves. And that was a great story, and I really appreciate you sharing that. But how do we get your message out there? I mean, obviously, you guys are not heavily funded with private donations and stuff like that. I understand that some of these incumbents have had war chests they've been working on for several years, as far as their campaign. So how do you get yourself out there? Is it social media? Is it billboards or what? I mean, how do we get your story out there?
So social media is great. I mean, you can follow me on Facebook, Giovanni Patterson for Baltimore. You know, you can also visit my website, www.jp4bmore.city. That's JP for bmore.city. Okay. But we're also, you know, just talking to people face to face and you know, allowing them to tell us their story, and sharing, you know, what I plan to do for them. I'm not a recycled politician, and I'm willing to work for the people. So getting the message out there, it's each one reach one.
Right.
It's face to face. It's some of the social media, you know, outlets. But you know, we're grinding. We're doing what we need to do. We're in the face of a lot of people. You know, but you know, we're starting to trend a little bit. You know,
that's good. You're not
getting those hashtags out there a little.
But I think that's great, and I think that I'm going back to education, because most of us grew up and you register to vote, and you automatically register as a Democrat because in a lot of households, that's what the parents were registered as. But as you start to learn more about history and the Republican Party, I think that you used to think of Republicans as, you know, I don't want to offend anybody, but the old white man that's part of the good old boy network. But the Republican Party has evolved, but in the beginning, it was the first party. So we've gotten so far past that because I think that we didn't understand what the party stood for. And now, when you fast forward to today, I'm seeing a lot of us in the Republican Party. So what was your driving force in being the Republican candidate? I mean, why did you choose the Republican Party?
Because the values of the Republican Party aligns more with my conservative values.
Okay.
You know, that's the simple answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, when I started really looking at it, you know, what my mom and my parents told me when I was growing up, you know, when I was asking about the parties, they said, well, Democrats generally tend to be for the black people, and the Republicans tend to be for the rich. Now, I was black and I wasn't rich, so I only checked one of the boxes.
I think that's kind of what we were taught as well. I
registered for Democrat. But then, you know, recently, you know, the whole stereotype is still Democrats are for the black people.
Yeah.
Especially poor, underprivileged black people.
Mm-hmm.
And the Republicans are still for the rich. Now, if we think about it, in order to get into office, you need votes.
Yeah.
Right? You need a base. So if the Democrats are thriving off poor black people or poor people in general, it's in their best interest to keep people poor.
Absolutely.
If the Republicans want to grow a base and they want to keep a base in their best interest, if they want to keep positions in government, then it's their best people in their best interest to try to allow for economics to allow for riches.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to look at what class do I want to be in. Do I want to be in the poor black class, or do I want to be an economically empowered individual? Because it's not about race. It's not about you know, your sexuality. It's not about any of those things. It's about who you are as an individual and what you can achieve in your lifetime.
Yeah.
And that the Republican Party aligns itself with my values that I hold in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I always say the story. About 20 years ago, I was watching the brother J.C. Watts. He was one of the first. He was one of the first Republican, black Republican House of Representative people, and I listened to him talk so eloquent. And he said something that kind of resonated for me for the last several years. He said, he was talking about, he always answered questions about why Republican versus Democrat, and I wanted to know too. I was like, "Dang, man, why you choosing Republican?" And he said he's a conservative, and he said to me, conservatism means that you have the same values as your parents. And I said to myself, I was like, well, technically, yeah, I have the same values as my parents. Does that make me a conservative? So it really made me start reflecting, in a sense where, yeah, I'm a registered Democrat. I ain't gonna lie, I've always voted Democrat. Except for a couple exceptions, but I always looked at each candidate as like, okay, what are you doing it for? What's in it for me? Right. What's in it for me and my values and the things that I hold true? And I didn't care what I don't care what party affiliation you belong to, because I look at it from a grassroots level. How does your policy trickle down and affect me?
Right.
So. I applaud you guys. I think we need representation on both sides. Absolutely. Number one, and I think fundamentally, I don't see too much difference between the two parties. I do see differences more so in the individuals, and I always listen to each individual, and that's where I follow my heart. Mm-hmm. So, like I said earlier, I appreciate I appreciate your candor. And I appreciate you keeping it real with us. And, I definitely, we definitely wish you luck, man. And any hopes of a debate? That'll probably serve your best interest, getting in front and challenging them word for word. But is that in the process, or what's the possibility of that?
We're working on it. Nothing's been scheduled yet. I haven't heard of anything, or nobody's really fighting for it. But
any interest on their side?
I'm fighting for it. I think I will.
I'm fighting for it.
I think I'll help you fight for that.
Okay.
I think I'll help you fight for that, Giovanni.
It's interesting.
Right. Ms. Bazemore will get it done. We're going to get it done.
It's so interesting that you said that, because
I might ask Queen Jackie to reach out and text Mosby.
Well, actually, I did that today. I sent him the video. I sent Nick Mosby the video, letting him know that you would be on the show as an opportunity for him to join us. I just got crickets. So I did reach out to him because it would have been interesting to have both of you to see where you stand on the issues, but again, I didn't get a response.
We'll see. I think I'm gonna put my little investigative and my aggressive cap on and see if we can make that happen.
Well, Queen Z, I see you coming out there with some boxing gloves and a robe on.
She's going to borrow Kenny boxing gloves.
Doing the Sugar Ray Shuffle, you know what I mean?
I've already been accused once today talking about I'm a bully and I'm dominant.
Well, I don't know about that.
But you're just passionate about what you stand for. Yeah, I respect that.
I don't know about that, but I think your right hook is true.
But look, I get paid to use mine. Somebody approached me the wrong way, I'm gonna hit their bank account versus using the skill right here.
Yeah, we appreciate.
I get paid to use this skill.
Yeah,
we appreciate you too, Queen Z. You always keep it real, and you're a friend of the show. Like I said, I'm looking. I hope you guys. I'm gonna look forward to this dream team that y'all gonna unveil in 2 weeks of Republican on a Republican ticket, because
it's an exciting time for Baltimore with new administration, hopefully. So
and hope y'all can stir up some
shake
dust. Shake some of these trees. Let me ask you this: are there any current Republicans in the councilmanic districts that are incumbents? When was the last one? When was the last one? Have we ever had? I can't recall.
70 years ago.
70?
Almost 80 years ago.
Well, right, for the mayor.
Mayor that was a Republican was McKeldin, and he left office in 67.
In 67, yeah.
Right, 63 and 60.
And there's never been a GOP city council president.
Look at that. And they got buildings named
after
him.
It's time.
Republican city council member, and that was 80 years ago.
Wow. That's why nothing changes. Everything stays the same because we keep voting in the same type of administration. We got to be willing to shake some shit up.
I think Baltimore politics, when it comes to that, I think is more so you stand in line, wait your turn, and they choose who's the person they're going to support. I really think it's probably
politicians. So
that's what he said. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, Brandon, it's your turn. Next turn is going to be this person.
That's
you wait your turn.
Do.
Yeah.
But guess what? I think the people are ready now. I really do.
I think
this is the prime time.
Hope so. Yeah.
We just going to make sure that we actually get this team, this dream team, out in the public forum. And right now, as quiet as this kept, I told you I got something playing.
She got some irons in the fire right now.
Something big.
All right, okay.
Watch out. Something big is about to occur.
Well, you never lied to me yet, girl.
Yeah, so Giovanni, we definitely appreciate you spending time with us. We like to invite you back. And this time, we kind of took it easy because it's your first time, so we don't want to scare you off. So.
I'm a Republican running in Baltimore City.
Right. Great point. So we
drops the mic.
And he drops the mic.
Yeah, there you go.
We definitely want you to come back.
Well, I look forward to meeting with you guys again. I do have to run because I got to get my wife some food real quick. So.
Okay, yeah. Happy wifey, happy lifey. I heard you, man.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much.
Be safe.
You too. Bye.
Thank you, Giovanni. Queen Jackie, thank you so much for accommodating. And Quiet Storm, thank you. It's always a pleasure because you guys put together some really great questions. You really get into people's mindset, and you do it so eloquently. But you also talk about some of the serious issues and really want to get a glimpse.
Yeah.
And you let your audience get a glimpse of these candidates' mindset. So I appreciate you two so much, so much.
Well, we appreciate you.
We appreciate you too.
Y'all in on this, on what's getting ready to come.
Okay.
You're not out of the loop. I'm gonna get y'all in on what's getting ready to come.
All right, I got my popcorn ready. I got my popcorn ready. I'm be waiting. I'll be waiting and watching.
All right then.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Stay safe.
Okay, you too.
So, what are your takeaways for today? Are we still on? So what are your
I'm
takeaways?
so sorry. So, I think that I felt like once we finally had a chance to connect with him, I liked a lot of what he said. I like his passion. I really think that it's time for a change, but it is a uphill battle.
Yes, it is.
Especially with Democrats outnumbering Republicans by 10-1. And if we haven't had a Republican mayor since 1967, it's like pulling teeth. And I think a lot of it comes down to education, because I think a lot of our community don't have an idea of what the Republican Party represents. They vote based on tradition, and that's why things don't change. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that there's some good programs in the city, but I feel like we could do so much more. I feel like the Democratic Party, a lot of times probably play on community insecurities. You vote for the Republican, they're just for the rich.
Yeah.
But it comes down to us doing our own research. And for me, as a registered Democrat, I'm always going to vote for the person that shares my values. It doesn't matter if they're a Democrat or a Republican, but I'm going to do my research. I'm not going to rely on other people to tell me who I should vote for.
Yeah, and I echo that sentiment as well, because I don't care, to be honest, I don't care if you're a man, woman, what color you are, what party you belong to. Not lately, but as of late, I've really been focusing on that individual.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, again, I think it's very important that we have representation on both sides of the party. Number one, and when I say we, I mean collectively.
Yeah,
it's a class, cultural. Everybody. Every group needs to be at the table so that we can learn and we can, some of these decisions that's been made over in the past unilaterally. If you have somebody in there that might affect it, they could chime in and say, you know what, that may not be a good idea to name your team the Redskins. Just in something as simple as that.
Right, but that's a great point.
Yeah.
I think that we tend to allow our differences to divide us instead of bringing us together.
Yeah.
If we learn from one another, imagine what we could do with that knowledge. Imagine how we can move our communities forward, where we're not just reliant on our leaders, but it's a team effort. And that's what I feel like we're missing a lot of times.
But what if we have them back on the show again, if we have some additional people, I would like to delve in, if at all possible, and if they are at liberty to say, get more into the details of how this is going to happen, because I understand, we need to do this, we need to do that, but tell me.
But be specific.
Tell me how is it we're going to get this?
Yeah.
Are we going to bring in a tax? I mean, we're going to get more tax. How are we going to reduce taxes and do home ownership? How can you have both?
Yeah.
So
I
would like to know more details if they can.
I think Pastor Wright said it best. It is a long haul. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not going to happen overnight. But there has to be a willingness of all the leaders.
Yeah, but they got my attention. Yeah. They got my attention. I think in the I think a couple of years ago, I probably wouldn't have paid
you wouldn't
too
have
much,
even entertained it.
Paid too much attention. But I think now, as I evolved, it's an evolution. I'm still coming out of my cocoon.
And we're supposed to evolve. You know what I mean? Because the things that worked for our parents, it's a different time now. So we have to create our own traditions. My values are somewhat different than my parents' values. Some of it I took, but something from a lot of people I know. I mean, I'm the unicorn.
Remember who we talking about here.
I know my brother always says, please don't include you in the, because you're just different. But being different, I'm still open-minded to be able to listen to another side, and I think that's what has to continue to happen. We have to embrace each other's differences, but please, people, research, and then once you vote, your job is just beginning, because you have to hold those candidates accountable for everything that they said. And not just it's your job.
Not just focus on the federal. Look at your councilman districts. Look at your school board. Look at your local sheriffs. Those people that's going to prosecute, or these look at your state's attorney. Look at every level of government, because you can make a difference. Again, we had city of Baltimore had 1 million people 20 years ago. Now it's less than 500,000. So every vote counts. And guess what? They also said, I saw a stat where there's a lot of 17-year-old kids. By the time the November election,
you'll be 18.
5 million of them will be 18 in voters' age.
Yeah.
5 million.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
In the country.
And they have the power.
Yes. So register to vote. Get people registered. If you want to do something in the community, if you want to do something to make a difference, find out how you could do some things on the grassroots levels, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's registering people to vote.
Yeah, get involved.
Make an impact, because those little things does make a difference.
Get involved. The man in charge, you have something to say?
St. Nick, what you get?
Yeah, we know this.
The hardest working man
in showbiz.
In AV. Audio visual.
I thank you folks for tuning
in.
It's
always a blast. You
next
awesome.
week we have Miss Amy Willis.
Who's Miss Amy?
I have to tell you about her. She is actually joining us. I love Zoom, by the way. She's in Canada, but she's going to be joining us via Zoom. She has an amazing story about her journey to sobriety. She is a lifestyle coach. She's so amazing, and I can't wait for her to share her story with all of you.
Wow, so I might leave out next week a better person? Are you saying that?
She's amazing.
Okay.
She's absolutely amazing. So I'm lucky, that I came across her 2 years ago in the group on Facebook, and we've been in touch ever since. So
I come out my cocoon.
So don't wear your birthday thong. Ain't nobody got time for that. Good night, folks.
Good night, folks. Be safe, y'all.